Good morning and welcome to Talk of the Gorge on Y102. This is your host, Rodger Nichols, and our guest today is Jeremy Hubbard. He's a bail bondsman, and Oregon is one of the 4 states in which he cannot practice his profession. We'll find all about that and a little bit about himself. And as opposed to the system, how does it work in Washington? Tell us about it, because I'm really familiar with this.
Not a problem. It's the same situation in Washington. You're out. If you get picked up on a theft charge, we'll say your bail is $10,000. You would actually pay a bail bond company $1,000. That's non-refundable. Plus, mom or dad or boss would have to put up collateral against the $10,000. So now we're bringing in the family, making sure that the defendant makes all of his court appearances and the crime victims get their time in court as well.
Okay, so let's run the scenario a little farther along, see if I understand this correctly. So I really appreciate you walking me through slowly on it. So, okay, I skip out on my bail. Then you, as bail bondsman, have to pay the court the $10,000?
Well, I have 60 days from the time you miss court to
Okay.
either return you to custody, which is where you see Dog the Bounty Hunter come in, or
Right.
in Washington we call them fugitive recovery agents. They will either pick you up and take you back to jail, or at the end of the 60 days, if I have not found you, I pay the court the full amount of the bond.
And then you go get that amount from whatever the collateral is that
Correct. I'm going to go after mom or dad or coworker, boss, whoever signs for you.
okay? It's usually not just a signature, isn't it? Though there's some hard asset that you can attach. Or?
Absolutely. Most of the time we're going to use a credit card for collateral. We use houses. Some companies use car titles. It just depends. It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
You know, our most common charge is DUI. If dad has had his job for 20 years, obviously he can just sign for you to get out and pay the 10%.
Okay. And what's the most unusual thing you ever took as collateral? Do you ever do anything unusual?
As far as collateral, no. That was more in the past, like in the old days when Portland had bail,
And you'd
with the pawn shops.
hawk the watch and that sort of thing?
Yeah, we don't do any of that. We're very credit based. So if mom or dad got good credit, it's pretty easy to get you out.
Okay. You'd ever run across any problem in that regard? Somebody's maxed all their credit cards out and they don't tell you? Or
We've of course, we're dealing with some of the criminal elements.
Yeah.
So we've had people try to use stolen credit cards. We've had people come in and try to give me fake money.
No, really?
It's really funny. People come in on forgery charges and expect me to take a check. Well, that's probably not going to happen.
Wait a minute. How do I look that dumb? Yeah. But you have to be aware of all that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to run back and get you some background on it, and we'll come back and talk more about the process and how it all operates. But you have an unusual career track, as I understand, for somebody who's in the bail bonds business. You first started working for your grandfather building parade floats. Is that right?
I did, in Pasadena.
So transition me from there into how you ended up in the position you are now.
From there, I actually went into the Army.
Okay.
Well, like I like to say it, I was in the 3rd largest gang in the world, the United States Army. And after I got out of there, had odd jobs here and there, was actually a cooler at a club in downtown Portland, and a recovery agent liked how I ran things, and I started out as a fugitive recovery agent.
Oh, my.
Then the company I was doing skips for had an opening, and got in there in 1999, and rest is history.
Well, and at some point you started your own company?
No, I'm the corporate manager of A Affordable
corporate
Bail
manager.
Bonds.
Okay, and it's A Affordable.
Correct,
not
A
just-
Affordable.
And your office is located, head office in Vancouver?
Corporate office in Vancouver, Washington.
Washington has 39 counties, right?
Correct.
And how many prisons?
Well, I don't know how many prisons, but there's 78 jails.
Jails, right, okay. And you have somebody that's staff that can deal with people in all those?
Correct. I operate out of every court, every jail in the state of Washington.
Wow. That must be an overhead consumer in yourself, just keeping track of all that stuff.
Absolutely. And, different policies for different courts. You're constantly learning.
Okay. So some judges are lenient or tougher, or is it less that than how you have to do the paperwork? Or
Yeah, paperwork is different county by county, and as well as you're correct, too. And judges, compared rural to city, there's just different policies, different procedures. Some will allow you to post bonds on warrants, some won't. There's different intricacies in every single county.
Right. So you're dealing with multiple things. I was trying to think. You've got to be somewhat of a psychologist to analyze the person coming before you wanting the bond, whether or not what their actions are going to be. You have to be a financial guy. You have to know the legal system. And I guess when you start out being somebody who's a recovery person, you probably have to do detective work.
Absolutely. We have search engines that we have access to that are amazing. I mean, you can find out who the person's neighbors are, every address they've ever had. If they so much as put a pizza on their credit card, I'm going to have that address.
Tell me some stories about how you started and grabbing people that were skipping out on the bail.
Well, probably one of the most favorite stories I tell is we had roughly 9 people out on forfeiture in Clark County. We just were having a tough time catching them. I sent them all a letter to their family members. Said you or your family member entered yourself into a drawing at the mall. And I sent them a car key with the letter. And said if you come to the mall at this time and your key starts the car, you drive off in a brand new car. 7 of the 9 showed up. The jailers thought it was hilarious. After about the 3rd one I took in, they were asking how I was getting so many arrests. And so the 4th guy I brought in, they asked him how his key worked.
So that idea, were you one of the first to use that idea? Were they first?
I highly doubt it.
Okay.
I'm a young pup in this game.
Okay.
Bail bonds has been around. I mean, there's biblical references to bail bonds as far as them using a cloak for collateral.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm sure that I'm not the only one. And you saw it. I actually got it watching Cops. How they used to
just do stings to get people
the TVs, the free TV stings.
Yeah. Well, hey, whatever works, and people still fall for that stuff. So we want to believe that the gods of fortune are going to smile on us, and usually it's the gods of penal servitude that come calling at our door. So that was some of the stuff. How about tracing other ones down? Tough ones to find. Some. Do they actually skip the country sometimes? Or?
We've had a couple.
Yeah.
We went to Afghanistan to get somebody. This was a few years back.
Wow.
He skipped out of Minnesota on a domestic violence. He was a doctor. It was a wonderful bond. He just went back, and we had it worked out to where the authorities were going to hand him over to us, and then because of the conflicts, they pulled out at the last second. We were unable to get him.
Oh my!
So we went back to the court, explained our situation, and instead of paying the entire $80,000 bond, they let us pay half.
Oh my! Wow. So so it isn't all. It isn't all. But you did recover probably your costs because of the assets that he had.
Yes, wonderful collateral, wonderful cosigner. We ended up doing okay on it.
Maybe I shouldn't ask you this, but you can tell me this: how profitable is the business? Is it thin margin, or are you comfortable at it?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you run your company.
Mm-hmm.
We make sure that our cosigners are solid, so we have a pretty good profit margin. We don't write a lot of forfeitures.
Okay.
And Multnomah County, for example, last year their FTA rate, which means people ticketed didn't go to court, went over 30%.
Wow.
Mine in Washington, I chase less than 1% of the people I bail out.
We're back talking with Jeremy Hubbard on Talk of the Gorge, and Jeremy is a bail bonds dude. I was going to say impresario or something else, but you are really into you have worked every stage of it, from chasing people that skipped up through writing the bail, and now you're in management.
Correct. I'm also the president of the Washington State Bail Agents Association.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, how many people are involved in that? Or how many bail writers are there in the state, or companies?
Well, there's over 400 licensed bondsmen in the state of Washington. Our association represents probably 260 or better.
Okay. So you're lobbying at the state, you're doing various other activities, and hopefully doing some continuing education stuff and that sort of thing.
Absolutely. We're required to have 2 hours of continuing education every year. You have to have 12 hours to get a license to begin.
Okay. So, and something you can go to a community college and take courses? Or?
Well, currently they just passed this law. So right now there's only 3 or 4 teachers in the state of Washington that offer the CE.
Okay.
Of course, I happen to be one of the 4, so I get a lot of calls on.
Oh, why? So when you teach it, what sorts of things do you teach?
I have an ethics class that I'm very proud of. I need to make sure that our industry stays professional. Mm-hmm. I do a class on how to build relationships with court personnel, law enforcement, and then I go over the RCWs, the Revised Code of Washington, the laws surrounding bail bonds.
Uh-huh. and then help people, because the better you know the law, the better you're able to follow it and deal with people.
In anything in your life,
Yeah.
the more you know, the more you're worth.
That is so true, which tells me why my pay is what it is. But that's a whole other story. We won't get into that right now. So, and I'm interested in exploring the difference between Oregon and Washington again a little bit, because if I go in to pay my $1,000 to the court in Oregon, they have no surety, or they don't take a bond like you do. They don't take anything like that.
Correct. They take the cash from anybody, and as soon as you have the 10%, that person walks out of.
So there's no collateral involved.
No collateral. Nobody's keeping track of the defendant, making sure he's go to court, and we're so with the criminal.
Right. Well, and so theoretically, then the overworked, and I would think that the sheriff everywhere would agree with me that they're overworked department, understaffed, have just one more thing that they have to be looking out for us while they're out doing their patrolling and whatnot.
I've talked to police officers, and it's very frustrating for them. Here they are out there in the community doing their job, getting the guys that need to be in jail, just to watch them turn around and come right back out and commit more crime with nobody watching them. And there's no warrant department to speak of, so cops aren't out there actively looking for these warrants.
Wow.
When you bring in a bail bond company, that's our money on the line. We have every interest to get you back into court or get you back into jail if you decide you don't want to go.
So in some parts, I think people have got an odd, and I certainly did, impression of the system as being something that maybe was not on the side of the cops, and that's not true. You're very much so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In Washington, I work with them often on criminals that maybe I don't have them out on bail, but I did at one time, and they're looking for them.
And you say, well, sure, I got some information. I can help out. Or...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Or I'll direct them in the right direction, a recovery agent that has picked them up before.
Yeah. Is there any element of danger involved in this? Do you ever get dicey situations?
We were talking about this in my office the other day, and I was talking to a couple of my girls that work for me, and they compared it to being a banker. Only bankers are probably more in danger because they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And in this economy, you have a better chance of getting robbed at a bank than you do at a bail bond company.
Oh, okay.
Now, as far as the recovery agents go,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
They do. They're going out getting felons and taking them back to jail.
Right.
So there's always an element of danger there. But for the bail bond company, no, not so much.
Okay. Let's talk about giving some practical advice to somebody who, and I hope I never need your services, and none of our listeners do, but should it happen, it would be nice to have the knowledge. As you point out, knowledge is power. What should we know about bail bond? What sort of pitfalls? Let's assuming that we're arrested in Washington for something, whether we did it or not, and we want to get out because we don't want to be in the jail.
I would say the first thing you have to look at is, in every industry you have the good companies and the bad companies. Ours is no different. Do some research on the company that you're going to use. ExpertBail.com is a wonderful way to go and search out and find good companies. You know that they do a wonderful background check on every company that they bring aboard. So that's a good way to do it. The phone book and internet, of course, are huge marketing tools. Just call and make sure that, are you part of the Better Business Bureau? Are you part of your state association? These are questions you can ask to find out how professional your company is.
Okay.
The company you're using.
Okay. And then let's suppose that it comes. What should I be prepared for? Say if I need your services, what would help you if I had ready when we talked?
Well, you're not gonna. I mean, for the most part, most people think that I deal with just the same people over and over again. The truth of the matter is 85% of my clients every year have never needed me before, never will again. They're good people that make a mistake. Just call and ask questions.
Okay.
I'm going to walk you through the entire process, explain the entire process, and make sure that the defendant knows how to get to court. So you really don't need anything when you call me.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to ask you stuff like, how long have you had your job? How good is your credit?
Stuff you should probably know.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So I don't have to gather papers or anything like that.
No, once I approve the bond, then you'll do all the paperwork with either my agent at the jail or at one of my offices.
Okay. And do you tend to hand out a lot of cards for people?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Especially with, Dog the Bounty Hunter on TV.
Yeah.
Anytime you mention that you're a bail bondsman, people are interested.
Well,
Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, they're interested.
It's intriguing. I think you mentioned this earlier because I have some questions here that I want to go through. But you said the most common offense is driving under the influence.
Well, it's one of.
Okay.
I would say driving with license suspended is the number one.
Oh, really? Okay.
DUI probably second, and assault for domestic violence third.
Yeah. Wow, that's an interesting triage there. What's do you have any unusual ones you occasionally run into, or?
Of course, especially in some of the rural jails.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had one, the weirdest bond I've ever done. It was attempting to urinate in public. He didn't actually do it, and
I'm sorry, I find that interesting.
I was dumbfounded when I got the call.
I'm not sure how you. Well, did he have his hand on his zipper when you? I don't know.
No, absolutely not. He was stuck in traffic on the bridge coming from Portland to Vancouver. Had to use the latrine.
Yeah.
Stopped at a place, asked them to use it. They said no because he wasn't a client. And he said, "Fine, I'll just go in your bushes." There happened to be a cop in the place of business, and he arrested him
just because he said that.
For attempting.
Oh, wow. So I would imagine the bail on that's pretty heavy, though.
Yeah, it was a little $500 bond, and the judge laughed it out of court.
Okay. But he did contact you then.
He did, and he had to get bailed out.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. That is interesting. So your life is never the same day. I imagine there's a lot of similarities in some of the processes, but day-to-day, the actual happenings, pretty different. That's
part of what I love about my job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I show up for work, I know I'm going to learn something new every single day.
Yeah. Wow. It's just amazing. I have to tell you, I have to share with people that, you know, I knew you were coming. I went on the internet, as you do, and looked you up. I saw you in a video get tased for charity. Can you tell me about that?
I can. Every year I raise money for Muscular Dystrophy Association.
Jerry's kids, yeah.
So I do different stuff, car washes. One year I decided all my recovery agents, they have to get tased to get their license, to get their certification. So they all wanted to see me get tased. So I said, okay, well, we'll have a picnic, we'll do a raffle, and whoever, the grand prize of the raffle is who gets to shoot me with the taser. Not one of my brighter fundraising ideas. That was very painful.
You know, I looked at the lady's eyes, as you could see in the video. And somebody's reaching over to show her how to help her and everything. But there's a certain glee there that I found just a little bit,
Yeah, that is one of my office employees, and she enjoyed every second of that.
Yeah, and we should describe for people that you had a person each side holding onto your arm so that you would not hurt yourself in the fall, because you go down when you hit.
Yeah, as soon as those prongs hit you, it's totally debilitating.
Yeah, and you did not get up for more than a few seconds after that happened.
Yeah, it's a 5-second ride. Once it hits you, the electrodes go off for 5 seconds, and then, it takes you a couple more to get your legs back.
Yeah. So you raised money for that. I saw all these little kids come running around after you had been tased. Is he going to be okay? Is he going to be okay? And we are back talking with Jeremy Hubbard there on the bail bonds issue and the fun and games a bail bondsman goes through in their daily routine. One of the things that we want to talk, we've been talking about the difference between the two systems, and you say Oregon's one of only 4 states that have publicly funded bail. Basically, is what's involved.
Correct. 10% bail system.
Yeah, and I would assume that I seem to think that there's some movement in the legislature to maybe take another look at that, particularly given the budget problems that the state is having.
Absolutely. There's actually a bill that will be introduced in this session. We're still on pins and needles finding out where it's going to go, if it's going to get pushed through, or if they're too worried about budget issues to even deal with it this year.
Oh, wow. So we'll be in touch with that. In fact, we'll ask when our state representative comes on Friday. We'll talk to John Huffman and see where that might be in the system and what's going on about it. There's some controversy. Well, there's some cases where people do get out on bail and do bad things. We're thinking about Maurice Clemens a couple of years ago, just got out on bail and then killed 4 policemen in Washington on Thanksgiving of 2009. Some people look at that and say that, well, the system is flawed, but I'm sure you have a different take on that.
No, I don't. The system was absolutely flawed.
Okay.
After the Maurice Clemens incident, we, as the association, went to the legislation and said it's time to make a change. We actually fought and passed a new bill to where now, if you are in on your third strike case, you have no bail. You will be stuck there. And we were coming from the direction of, look, we need this information. When we call the jail to get bail information, they don't tell you, oh, by the way, this is Maurice Clemens' third strike case. He might be going away for life. So we opened up our communication policies in Washington and passed that to where now people like him will be held without bail.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So you can see this the system evolving, hopefully trying to make corrections as you go.
Absolutely. And there's nothing... It happens all the time. It's not just with bail bond companies. In Oregon, that same thing could have happened. All they had to do was come up with the 10%.
Yeah. And we don't have that protection or somebody, in your case, looking out for the situation. When you talk to people in Oregon, are they frustrated by in the law enforcement community?
Absolutely. I have a lot of family that lives in Portland, surrounding areas, and for the most part, it's just lack of knowledge. Nobody knows about bail bonds. Nobody knows the public safety issues that we bring to the table. When I start throwing out numbers, like 30% failure to appear rate, people just drop their mouth in awe. Oregon's becoming a safe haven for criminals. As a recovery agent, we can't come into Oregon and arrest you. We will get picked up for kidnapping.
Whoa.
So if I'm just got bailed out of Washington, I don't want to go to court, where am I going to run?
Right across Columbia.
Oregon.
Yeah.
People do it from Idaho, from California. They're all coming to Oregon to hide.
What are the other three states, you know, on the top of your head? That
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, Illinois, and Kentucky.
So none of them around here. So like we're the magnet. It's a little tough to get from Washington to Kentucky, for instance.
And the funny part is, in '73, when Oregon abolished bail bonds, they said that their system is the best and every state will follow. No other state has followed suit since 1973. Oh my. They were the fourth one to abolish us.
Okay. How interesting. And of course, those politicians are no longer around. But that is an interesting thought. If somebody wanted to contact you about maybe working to that end or find out more about it, it's Affordable Bail Bonds in Vancouver?
Correct.
Okay. Well, they can do that. They can check online and find email address or a physical address? Or
same thing, a-affordablebailbonds.com.
Okay. And find out all about and or probably get that handy phone number in case you're driving a lot in Washington. Absolutely. Or any other state. Do you cover beyond Washington yourself?
Well, through the ExpertBail network, I am able to get somebody out of jail in 46 of 50 states.
Oh.
The other 46 that...
Yeah, that do. So even if you're on vacation in Hawaii and something happens, or in Alaska or any place else other than those four, including Oregon, you're the guy to call, right?
I'm the guy.
Okay. Well, I thank you very much for sharing. Is there anything else we haven't covered you want to make sure we got in today before we close out?
No, I appreciate it. I just, I encourage people to, check out our website. If you have questions, give us a call. We're here to answer any questions.
All right. Our guest has been Jeremy Hubbard of A-Affordable Bail Bonds in Vancouver.